Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Luke Bell from Astro Awakening, and we're here to talk about all things esoteric, spirituality, and astrology, how to use them for personal development, and also make sense of this crazy world we're going through. So this video is going to be all about the Libra solar eclipse, the annual solar eclipse, which is a ring of fire eclipse that's happening in the sign of Libra, with the South Node. So a conjunction of the South Node, a South Node solar eclipse. So we're going to break that down. But in this video, I want to really address the big picture from the very beginning, with what's going on with some of the big cycles that we're going through and how to sort of understand them. I'm going to give you a bit of homework for the month of October. I recently watched this series and I found it very insightful to give a real big symbolic, big picture of what's happening and what's coming. We're going to look at the eclipse from three perspectives. Personally, understanding the eclipse, what does it mean? How to know if it's going to be impacting you and what it's likely to bring to light. Then we're going to look at the eclipse in relation to where it is on the Earth and where it's crossing the Earth. In ancient times, eclipses crossing a particular landmark or a location were said to be pretty bad omens, in the sense that during, before, or shortly after an eclipse, you could have that particular area suffer some consequences, some type of catastrophe or disaster. So that's pretty interesting to see where this eclipse occurs and what this one could relate to energetically and the release of this energy. We're dealing with a lot of karmic release with this one in particular. And then to look at it in context to conflict geopolitically in the big picture, which what's going on in the world at the moment. There's an escalation with Israel, Iran, the Middle East is sort of a real hotspot at the moment. And this eclipse sort of ties us back into the eclipse last October, on October 7th, which was when Israel was supposedly attacked by Hezbollah. And you've seen that constant escalation with the conflict over there, Israel moving into Lebanon, Iran now firing back at Israel. So it tends to be an upward trend. And this eclipse in particular has a connection to not only Israel and also Iran, but also to the next alignment of the Mars-Pluto sort of dance. So, hold on to your hats because it's almost like the end of peace in this eclipse. It sort of signifies the end of peace. Now, I want you to remember as well with the nodal axis at the moment, Aries, Libra, this is war and peace, war and peace. That's the axis of war and peace, which is Aries, war, and Libra, peace. We've got the South Node in Libra, so there's almost like an ending to what that represents and an ending to peace. And this eclipse leading into the Mars-Pluto opposition, leading into next year's major transition, it sort of signifies the end of peace, especially external peace. We could tend to see a little ramping up of chaos, change, unpredictability, conflict, and the like, and then the repercussions and impacts of that. So at the very, very beginning, make sure you're very grounded and centered. Okay. Libra is about finding the middle, finding that middle ground, finding balance. And through balance, we can achieve harmony and peace. Now, when the external world is in disarray and conflict and upheaval, it's so much more important to cultivate peace from within. So making sure that you're able to detach from what's going on and keep focused on what's important to you and try and see a little peace, beauty, harmony, balance in your life and learn how to cultivate that. So, big picture stuff going on. Let's go back to 2020, and we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, and we all know what that represented, which was the plan demon, Enic, the plan demonic that happened during 2020. But let's fast forward to the winter solstice, summer solstice for us in Australia, winter solstice, Saturnalia, and the sun's transition into the sign of Capricorn. And we have the grand conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. Their conjunction every 20 years. This is the first time now they're moving into air signs over the last, 250 odd years, their cycle is repeated through earth signs, and now we're moving into this air sign. So we've got, and it was on the 0 degrees of Aquarius. We've also got Pluto dancing back and forth in and out of Capricorn and Aquarius. So we've got this Aquarian, an age within an age, or the awakening of the Aquarian age, or the reality of this transmutation from the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is law and order, right? Law and order. When Jupiter is in charge, you sort of got the upper hand on Saturn, and you sort of have this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happening every 20 years when it's just like this reset of law and order and this style of like, how society and culture is structured, contained, and grows through these 20-year epochs. So, excuse me. Jupiter, when in conjunction with Saturn in a Saturn-ruled sign, tends to fall. And this idea of order that Jupiter can bring about, and Jupiter brings it about in a way in which is good for the gods or those that can achieve God's status. Look into this reality and you'll see who I'm talking about in relation to the aristocrats, the plutocrats, the royals, the bloodlines, those behind the veil, the ones in real control here with a Jupiterian sort of level of wealth, abundance, and power in particular. So we've got the fall of this Jupiter energy through the ending of the age of Pisces, the awakening of the age of Aquarius. And the old gods are returning and the modern gods are falling. So you have this idea of what Jupiter represents, which is law and order, right? And justice and bringing peace to the land and allowing for growth and those types of things. And it's almost like that cycle is coming to an abrupt end. So when you look around the world at the moment, you're seeing the breakdown of the symbolism associated with the age of Pisces and breaking down of our old belief structures. We're breaking down this idea of religion and church and state and royalty and this Jupiterian style of the way in which we've run and operated as a humanity, probably since Roman times, but certainly over the last couple of hundred years with the monarch. So we're going to see the fall of that, the continual fall. Pluto's reign through Aquarius this next 20 years. In that period of time, we will see the end of the royal family as we know it. And the awakening and the shifting of power. And where is it going to shift to? Is it going to shift to corrupted groups? Is it going to shift to the oligarchs? Is it going to shift to the plutocrats? Or is it going to shift to the community and humanity and the people? So there's a lot for grabs. But when the Jupiter reign is ending, we're shifting into this chaotic period of time where we're letting go of order. So the homework I want you to do is watch the series Chaos with a K, Kaos, Chaos. If you haven't already watched that series, I want you to watch that series because it really symbolizes this ending of the reign of Jupiter, or in that series, he's known as Zeus, which is the Greek god. The Roman equivalent is Jupiter. Yeah, it's a really interesting watch. Watch it from a big perspective. You've got Poseidon in there. You've got Hades, which is Pluto. So, you've got all these components, and they talk about this idea of chaos. And when the Jupiter reign is over, or when the family falls, chaos reigns, sort of thing. So I'm not going to give away too much, but I know if you're able to look at things symbolically and get the bigger picture and the bigger meaning from things, that's a really good short series to watch. It's on one of your streaming platforms. Check it out. I highly recommend it. Now, what else has been going on in this short little period of time is we've got the ending of Pluto moving through Capricorn. And that story began in 2008. And from 2008 until now, we've had Pluto through Capricorn. It went into Aquarius in March of 2023, and it's been dancing along the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. There's that word that triggered some people in my last video, the cusp. Of course, there's a cusp. Cusp is the boundary between one energy and the next, one state and the next state. The cusp of adulthood would be 17 in Australia. In America, it would be 20, sorry. you're on the cusp, right, on the verge here. So Pluto's dancing along this cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius, and it shifted back into Capricorn. And what news broke was the whole P. Diddy scandal, and you brought a lot of this subversive corruption, human trafficking, rape, Satanism, all sorts of shit that's been going on in the music industry, led by Diddy and his fiddlers, and really coming to light. So, do I believe that that's the main story? No, I think he's like either a fall guy or he's a plant to sort of shift the misdirection into like, oh, they're doing some crazy things. Yeah. Well, we found this out through Hollywood with Weinstein. Then we found this out through all of your elites with the Epstein, and now we're filing it out with the Diddy, and he was the dragon, right? Because Puff Daddy, Puff Diddy, and what's the dragon do? Puff the Magic Dragon. So interesting that this is happening in the year of the dragon as well. But there is a bit of misdirection going on at the moment because it shifts people's focus and awareness. But there is much to be gained from that. And the thing that you want to sort of keep in back of your mind is Diddy isn't doing all this on his own. He's just the fall guy or the guy that they're marketing, the face of the marketing that they want to put up for this. And the point is what's happening here is it's coming into collective consciousness, this idea that there is some fucking dark, shady, shit going on. When you're dealing with the Pluto stuff, you're dealing with Hades. Hades, Hades. Shift the S to the beginning, you've got shady, shady Hades stuff. Pluto goes into Capricorn. All the shady, Hades shit going on from 2008 till now is coming to the light in the entertainment industry, okay? Because you've also got Neptune at the final degrees of Pisces. So it's sort of bringing a lot of that sort of stuff from the arts and the industries and the music and Hollywood and all those types of things into light as well. But the real issue here is that that's sort of low level sort of stuff. Okay, it's fucked up shit and they've been doing it and they're using it for a form of control or to, hey, you're in the gang or, to sell records or to, lift people's infamy or fame. The real dark, sinister shit is what's been going on for us within corporate banking, political arena. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if Hollywood and the music industry, sporting industry, entertainment industry has all this shady Hades shit going on, you can guarantee that it runs through corporate, it runs through the finance, it runs through politics and government to the same degree. So will we get some light shone on that? Yeah, the next sort of 3 to 5 years of Pluto entering back into Aquarius, excuse me, is really going to sort of show more of this stuff. Because you got to think back to when Pluto entered into Capricorn in 2008, you had the collapse of the financial sector with the subprime mortgages, right? And that whole sort of house of cards that fell down and triggered the GFC. Well, like I said in my last video, what led to that was all of the stuff that was going on while Pluto was in Sagittarius. Jupiter ruled the sign, which was like all the dark, shady, Hades shit going on about growth and greed and expansion and more. And it was just kept from us. So then you've had Pluto in Capricorn, and the beginning of that brought a lot of that stuff to light. And now you got Pluto leaving Capricorn, entering into Aquarius, and we're getting a lot of the stuff over the last Pluto Capricorn period of time coming to light. Yet this is coming to light into the collective awareness. Pluto bringing darkness to light for us collectively as it moves back into Aquarius. That'll happen in November this year. And that really falls around the US election and then the Pluto Mars opposition. And you're going to have a lot of celebrities, a lot of people in positions of power where the tentacles run deep. The shady Hades shit has been going on. And it's not just P. Diddy and his little fiddlers. You're going to see a lot more of that. So to understand why that's happening and why this is occurring, yes, some of these alignments help us sort of navigate and sort of go, make sense of things. But we got the end of the reign of this Jupiter idea and Jupiter's reign in Pisces, and we're moving into this Aquarian age, and that's going to move us in a period for at least of chaos and upheaval and change. And chaos is like unpredictability. Things are changing and changing quickly. Chaos can lead to conflict, as we're seeing. And we're probably going to see an escalation in that. And it's time that we take responsibility and, we're aware of this and we can navigate these types of upheaval and change and not be afraid or, come on, can't we all just get along and be at peace? It's like we've got some pretty fundamental differences at our core that have spanned back from centuries, if not millennia, of conflict and division and disconnection. And from time to time, especially in the changing of an age, these are going to come up for, there's a bit of a battle on for who's going to be in control of the new age and what players and what people, what groups, what organizations, what ideologies, what religions, what faiths, what beliefs, what people, what resources, what lands, what technology, and there's a lot at stake. So you got to be able to pull right back and look at the big picture and not get so caught up into the personality aspects of this. These personalities, they represent symbols associated to ideas, energies, symbols that's going on. And it's not just in that industry, it's fucking everywhere. And if you want to see it more deeply, it's probably running through, a vein through humanity's consciousness in general. So go and watch the series Chaos. Even if you're not into the programming and all of that and the conspiracy and some of the stuff we're presented through the arts, music, media, and entertainment, things like that, is there designed to sort of show us symbolically, hey, this is what's happening. And whether that's them telling us, foreshadowing what's happening so that we're aware and they've not told us so they're karmically free of the repercussions, or whether there's some, people working on the higher or lighter side of this, conflict and this sort of war that's going on, this spiritual war, that are sort of like, hey, we can't come out and fucking tell you, but we can show you. Have you got eyes to see, ears to hear? Then look what's happening. So the Chaos series is an excellent one for that. Now, let's move on to the eclipse. Libra eclipse. What's happening during eclipse is the sun is being occulted, it's being shadowed over. So it's being shadowed over this time because there is a new moon occurring close to one of the nodes. And the nodes is just the point on the moon's path through the sky that it crosses over the ecliptic. We have the north node and the south node. We have Rahu and Ketu. And, we have the north node when we tend to have these types of activations of things that drive us forward, create karmic change that helps us move forward in a particular area and create new pathways and new dharma and new karma. And then we have the south node, which tends to undo karma from the past and bring it to the surface for it to be resolved and released. So now we've got this south node Libra eclipse, and it's happening in the sign of Libra, but on the south node. And we've got this sort of release of karmic energy to hopefully bring about a rebalancing of karma. However, when there is a rebalancing occurring, we're going to be rebalancing. So we're not in balance, we're trying to find that balance point. And some of the karmic shit that's going to come up to the surface in relationships, in areas of life where you've been putting yourself last or putting others first, where there's buried resentment, where there's imbalance, where there's issues around confidence, where there's issues around conflict, where there's issues around harmony and peace, and balance and fairness and justice and injustice, that can come up for you in certain areas of your life and more importantly into key relationships. So the eclipse that's occurring isn't the cause of this stuff. It correlates to the release of this stuff. And this stuff, karmic shit, is based on your karmic patterns of behavior or in behavior or lack of behavior or lack of action or actions or inactions, okay, that have happened over a period of time. And they've led to a point, and maybe there's something you've been avoiding, maybe there's something you haven't been addressing, maybe there's something you've been trying to hide from, maybe there's something you're afraid of, maybe there's something that could potentially create disharmony or conflict, and it's been repressed and pushed down. And it's led to this pattern of behavior. And now that pattern of behavior over a period of time has created a karmic ledger. And now we need to have that play out for us physically, realistically, or in the reality, to create the shift and the change that sort of annihilates that or releases it or processes it, that can lead back to a little bit of balancing. So it's not like the eclipse is doing this. It's like you doing this. You've been doing this. You're doing this. Your behaviors, your inactions or actions have led to this. Your behavior, whether it's conscious, subconscious, or unconscious behavior, your patterns of reactiveness and how you go about things, how you do or don't do things, have led to a situation. And it's not going to be the same for everyone because we're all different and it's going to impact and activate us in different ways. And some people not at all, and other people very intensely. So, how do we understand how or if it's going to impact you? You need to know your birth chart and you need to look in your birth chart, firstly, to your sun, moon, or your angles. Right? The sun and moon move the fastest out of the bodies through your chart, and the angles move really rapidly too on the day of your birth. We're having a new rising sign every 2 hours. We're having the midheaven shift as well, the nadir, the descendant. So if you have rising sign, midheaven, descendant, or IC, nadir, or your sun or moon at 9, 10, or 11 degrees of Libra or Aries or Cancer or Capricorn, then this eclipse is activating those placements. And based on which is being activated will help you understand, is this coming from you or from someone else? Is this happening outside of you and impacting you? Is it going on around you? Is it personal to you? Is it coming to you physically? Is it associated to your work or career, your public reputation? Is it home stuff or is it relationship stuff? Or is it a combination of those things? So not everyone has those placements at those degrees, especially 10 degrees of those cardinal signs. But 9, 10, and 11, because we've got a little orb of influence there. 9, 10, and 11 degrees, in particular, probably even 11, 12, because we've got this applying energy to that. Then you might be experiencing this in a very personal way. And if you need guidance on how to do that, firstly, whatever you're afraid to confront, because it might create disharmony or conflict, know that the longer you avoid it, repress it, or escape from it, the more tension you build into that, which was ultimately going to need to be resolved. And that tension, when it's resolved, is released karmically, tends to reactively release. And we have this sort of explosion of energy. And new moons, full moons, they tend to be these periods of the cosmic pump, the in and out breath of the cosmos. But when they're on the nodes, we're having this supercharged quality to it. So there's a level of potency to this because the nodes represent a lot of the karma. In the circle or the cycle around every year, there are two nodes or knots. And sometimes we're tying up a knot, and other times we're untying a knot. And that's a build-up of energy, a build-up of tension over a period of time that's led to this point. So eclipses come in cycles, and you want to look back 9 years and 18 years. And 9 years and 18 years ago, what was happening that could be somehow symbolically to what's going on for you now. And that's going to give you a bit of an understanding of this deeper pattern and maybe how you need to release it or let it go or process it. And then there is another aspect to this, which is sometimes if you don't have a placement at those degrees and nothing sun, moon, or your angles at those degrees, then sometimes you can have the themes of the houses associated to the eclipse show up for you in your life. Maybe more generalized and maybe not so specific, or maybe more so happening in and around your life. So with the houses, you're going to look to your Libra house and your Aries house, and this is the dynamic, and that's going to be across your chart from first house, seventh house, second house, eighth house, third house, ninth house, fourth house, 10th house, fifth house, 11th house, sixth house, 12th house. So you have to find those in your chart. Look to Libra on the cusp, Aries on the cusp, and you'll be able to find those houses and look to the themes of those houses. And then again, go back 9 years and then go back, 18 years. I think I said that right before. So 9-year cycles, 18-year cycles with these eclipses. This particular eclipse, South Node lunar eclipse, it's sort of, we're going to have another eclipse with the nodes in Aries in March next year, but this is the last of the Libra eclipses. So a South Node Libra eclipse it's the last, it's the end of peace here for whatever this represents. It's you can't live in peace here, or the idea or illusion of it. Something has to be, rebalanced here karmically to lead towards the peace. And it'll come in time, but now's the time to sort of deal with like fallout and the chaos or the change or the upheaval is associated to all of this stuff. Probably from a Libran perspective is being avoided, you know, sort of pushed to the side or pushed deeper or hidden below the surface, which is very Libran because, Libran's about peace, beauty, and harmony, and the idea of the impression you have on other people. So it's like to be like superficial in a way because nice and airy, and it's all like, isn't this lovely? Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this peaceful? And then there's the deeper layer. This eclipse is ruled over by Venus in Scorpio. So, it's going to bring a lot of that Scorpio energy to the surface. This eclipse is also at apogee. So that means that the moon is at its furthest point from the Earth, and that is the point in the sky that relates to Black Moon Lilith. And Black Moon Lilith brings up a lot of the darker side of humanity, a lot of the darker side of relationships, a lot of the darker side of yourself, where you've rejected, neglected, or repressed, where you've denied or, rejected aspects of your dark feminine, that dark, mysterious, seductive, sensual, sexual expression of the femininity. And, she can be a little bit pissed off from having to be shunned down, and she can show up for you in the shadow of others. So, we're going to have that quality there. This eclipse squares Ceres, so our ability to look after ourselves and others, and how that balancing between our needs and the needs of others, and how much do we give versus how much do we receive versus how much do we look after ourselves versus how much do we look after another. So there's going to be that battle going on. There is a loose square to Mars here in Cancer, so it's really going to impact on some of our emotional balancing needs, and we can be emotionally more reactive, right? So you look at any rash, impulsive conflict, there's usually an emotional component to this. Mars in Cancer is very emotionally reactive. If the emotional security is threatened, then Mars in Cancer is fucking look out. Okay, so this eclipse is square to that. What this means for you personally is if you're going through a bit of a release of this energy, is be kind to yourself and recognize that you might be a little bit more edgy, a little bit more reactive, a little bit more acting out of anger, and also you might be confronted with conflict a little bit. But recognize too that anger is a sign of someone's sadness or hurt or their avoidance of it. So when people are angry, they really hurt. Look beyond the anger and treat or engage with the person at that level of compassion. Hey, I can see you're upset. Maybe now's not the right time to have this conversation. Or, hey, if you're really that upset, maybe we can just put this to the side and come back to it. I respect that this is a lot, or maybe you're entitled to respond that way. What we don't want to do with this eclipse is fight fire with fire. Well, fuck you and fuck you, because you descend to that level of frequency. You're now stuck in opposition, in conflict, and now, you're bad as each other. So, sort of create a bit of space and, be more wise in your approach to any sort of conflict or reactions and sort of take the higher ground. And if you can't, take space, take some time out. The eclipse is also sesqui square to Uranus. So, this is an exercise in patience and perseverance. And there's going to be a bit of irritability, and things aren't going to go to plan, and there's probably going to be some disruptions. So, sometimes that energy, we're sort of holding on to this idea of harmony and peace and balance, and that holding on can create a little bit more instability and disruptive type qualities coming through, and things can come in really like in a shock sort of way. So, navigating chaos, unpredictability, and disruption, we want to be very open and flexible and going with the flow. A really good thing to do is if you're going through some heavy shit, some hard shit, or some conflict, is remember that you're a soul having a human experience, and you've been here before, you're coming again, and this is just an act that you're moving through. This isn't eternity. This isn't the real you, and this isn't real, any of this. This is Maya. Maya is the illusion. Don't get caught up in it too much. Don't get caught up in identity or definition of, your shit or your problems or your darkness or your difficulties or the conflict, and use it as a way to define yourself or who you are or someone else as well. Just recognize, hey, we're all fucked up, we're all lost, we're all hurt, we're all playing a game here, and we're all fucking crazy. So just remember that. Like, it helps you sort of pull that back a little bit, have that bigger objective perspective. And, I can move through this shit. I can move through disruption. I can move through a little bit of upheaval. I can be in the world and not of it, and that's a key to sort of navigating your awakening journey. Remember, you're in this world. You don't have to be of this world, as a bit of a way to keep that big perspective. So, another thing I wanted to address in this video is where this eclipse is falling on the Earth, and it running across the Ring of Fire, which is the Ring of Fire through the Pacific, the volcanic sort of tectonic plate that runs right around the Pacific Rim. It's running across that and across Chile and Argentina, South America. So that's an interesting Ring of Fire eclipse. When we look at the birth chart for Chile as well, and we don't have a lot of accuracy around this particular chart in my perspective. So I just want to look at the planetary alignments that are occurring. We've got a progressed Mars conjunct Saturn through this period of time for Chile. So that's going to be a little bit of potential for disruptions or upheaval or conflict or change, especially when it comes into ruling class and authority, rules, structure, and reality. There might be attacks, there might be volatility. We've also got a Saturn-Pluto conjunction happening through this period of time. And Saturn-Pluto conjunction, we saw what happened in the pandemic with Saturn and Pluto. So Saturn on the natal Pluto for Chile as this Ring of Fire eclipse crosses the country. Watch that area for potential disruptions, disasters, chaos, change, seismic activity, earthquake, volcanic action, tsunami stuff going on. And certainly, the lead up to the eclipse, we're about 8 hours away now, but over the play out of the next sort of week or two, just be mindful of being aware. If you're in those areas, hello to my South American watchers and viewers, very connected to nature. Very connected to nature. When there's going to be some sort of geological action, nature's going to give you the foreshadowing of that with changes. The birds are going to leave the trees and things will happen. Dogs will howl, things will bark. Like, there'll be stuff going on that will give you a bit of a heads up as to, like, oh, something doesn't feel right. And it's sort of like that energy that before it manifests physically in the event tends to give you some sort of like shifts and changes. And if you're open to it, connected, grounded, centered, you're going to be more receptive to that. So that's a bit of an area to watch over the next coming week or two. And there's been some pretty big earthquakes around that period of the Pacific Rim. So, if there is one that's triggered through this eclipse, it could be seismic in the sense of large, or also triggering landslides, tsunamis, that sort of thing. So the last thing I wanted to do was to look at this eclipse in relation to Israel and Iran in particular. And more importantly, in October last year, about a week out from the Libra eclipse, the last Libra eclipse, there was a Mars-Pluto square happening. And the Mars-Pluto square was triggering this sort of attack on, or supposed attack on Israel, this sort of tension that kicked off the conflict in the Middle East. So we're now moving beyond the square from Mars to Pluto and into the opposition. And when planets are in opposition, that's all out conflict. It's me against you, us against them. We're in direct conflict. This eclipse that's occurring, um, being that it's another Libra eclipse, and the chart we use for Israel has Libra rising, and Aries on the descendant. So you have this sort of polarity activated again, and it happens just about a month before the Mars-Pluto opposition. Now, already in Israel, we've had the ground assault on Lebanon. supposedly taking down leaders of Hezbollah and things like that. The conflict has sort of escalated in the area. Now you've had retaliation from Iran. I think that the story's always been, Iran, and to try and entice Iran into a more wider conflict for whatever reason, we can speculate on that. The interesting thing about this eclipse coming up is that it's at 10 degrees of Libra, and Iran's sun in the chart we use for Iran is at 10 degrees of Aries. So this eclipse is really, really activating the Iran chart and also the conflict with Israel. So I would not necessarily think we're going to all of a sudden miraculously see a de-escalation here. I think we're moving towards the end of peace and an escalation of conflict that could be plutonic in its event or its expression. So I know this is challenging for a lot of people, and we would like to live in a world that was all rainbows and lollipops and peace and harmony. But the reality is, um, you know, we that idea of harmony does not necessarily exist outside of us. The world is chaotic. Yes, there are cycles and themes and things occur in these sort of phases and unfold in a sort of an order. And we can look to astrology to help us understand the unfoldment of it. But within those cycles, within those themes, within these sort of phases, there is chaos. And we have to get comfortable with that. And to tie this back into the very beginning of this video, we're moving through a period of transformation, transition, transmutation, okay, agitation, mutation to get us from one age to the next. How do you turn water into air? You boil it. How do you change, transmute, or alchemize Pisces, mutable water, into fixed air, steam? You boil it. So things are going to heat up. Climate change, conflict, disasters, right? War, economic upheaval, boiled. Everything's heating up. We're moving in this direction. This eclipse is a big indicator for this disruption of peace so that a karmic rebalancing can occur. We're at the end of an age. We've got Pluto in Capricorn bringing a lot of dark shit to light, the shady haze. And it's not just where they're showing you. That would be the tip of the iceberg. And to the extent, we're probably not yet capable as a collective to hold to the extent in which this shady Hades shit has been going on and how far reaching the implications and ramifications of it are. But we're moving in that direction. And it's time to say bye-bye, Dorothy, to Kansas. I had to think about that. Kansas is going bye-bye. So yeah, that's part of this change, part of this transformation. I think COVID was a sorting the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Those that can stand and endure and transition, and those that can't, and those that will freak out and react and save me, help me. The age of Pisces is coming to an end, and there is no one coming to save you. Watch the series Chaos. Okay, Big Daddy Zeus, Jupiter, the royal family, the state, the church, it's coming to its end. Those in those sort of hierarchical positions of power, it's coming to an end. It's almost like, here you go, chaos reigns. And we've got to get comfortable in that. We got to be able to hold our light, find our light, and be our light through the darkness. And that is the awakening of the age of Aquarius, is through the people, is to realize we don't have to engage in that. We don't have to use that to define ourselves. We don't have to use that as a measure of harmony or balance or peace. Right? That can be going on whilst I can still be cultivating my idea of peace. And the more that we come to peace, less judgment, less avoidance, less more just peace within ourselves, the more we're able to navigate chaos outside of ourselves. And We're in those times now. We're in those times. We move through this eclipse, we're going to move into the next big astrological event that I think is really happening, which is the Mars-Pluto opposition, the supposed US election. We've got economic tension, we've got geopolitical stuff on every front, we've got a collapsing of our corporate side of things, the media side of things is just an absolute joke. You can sort of see that some areas are holding on by a thin thread at the moment. So if you are the type to be prepared, to prep, to be sort of, planning ahead, maybe now's a good time to restock your supplies and just think, okay, things went to shit, what am I going to do? Things went really to shit. And, chaos in the streets, anarchy in the streets, uprising, disruption, civil disorder. What do you do? How do you navigate that? And that's not being alarmist. That's not being like, oh, freak out. What am I going to do? It's like being mature, being mature. You think those in charge are in charge? Do you think they're coming to save you? Do you think like it's rapidly sort of showing us like what the fuck? So puff goes the magic dragon. And yeah, this dragon's tail is whipping right through now to rebalance this karma. And that will be a tipping of the scales for a period of time. And how well can we navigate this tipping of the scales? And your karma is being rebalanced here. And your karma isn't you've been a bad person and now you're paying the price. Your karma is you've got actions of behavior, patterns of behavior. And whether you were aware of it or not, or conscious of it or not, or whether you are and you haven't done anything about it, now is the rebalancing of that. And as that plays out, it'll create a tipping of the peace, the balance, the order. And for a period of time, we have to be able to navigate that. On our journey of becoming awakened and helping this transition, flickering light, of humanity. Well, now we've had this awakening, and when Neptune and Saturn move into Aries next year, it's time to put all of your spiritual awakening, all of your shifting of consciousness and awareness, it's time to put it into action now. And you're going to be tested upon that, just how much you can integrate all of this. You can see what's going on. You can see the players and who's playing everything and where this false reality and construct and the conditioned way that it keeps us stuck in this fear, perpetuating in this cycle of, distraction and entertainment and meaningless dribble and garbage, or completely dependent on a sick and dying system. Okay, so all of that, that you've come to awareness to from September 11 till now, we're getting into the time where it's time to go, okay, I better fucking step up now and I gotta put all this into action. I gotta put it into action and I gotta embody it and I gotta walk my talk and it's time. So on that note, it's good to be back. I hope to be doing more videos. Um, yeah, thank you to everyone that's, reached out asking where I am and also, continuing to engage in my guidance that I offer for personal readings and sessions. And there's more on the horizon. My 2025 readings. So every year, from about November through till February, I read for 2025 astro readings and I do like a forecast for your year ahead. And we go through a month by month major themes and cycles, and then the sort of hot points to sort of watch out for you personally and what that might mean and how to navigate that. So those readings are super popular. When I release them, they book out quickly. This year, there's going to be a pretty awesome upfront deal that's going to release earlier than November. So watch out for that. But get in because once they're booked up, my spots get booked up, that's it. It's over. There's a lot of work I do behind the scenes on those readings to sit down with your charts, your birth chart, your progress chart, your solar arc chart, your solar return chart, and your transit chart, and then mapping it out and looking at the themes and then what are triggered and activated by our transits. So there's a fair bit of work done in those, but they always tend to be good guidance for people to get a really head start on what's going to be. I would think 2025 and 2026 are going to be massive in the sense of the changes that we're going to go through personally and collectively. Massive, massive changes. We've got some massive astronomical changes happening. So I'm ready for this. We're all here for this. In one way, we were born for this and this moment. We wouldn't be here if we weren't meant to be here. So remember that. You're here for a reason. Even if you don't know what that reason is, there is a level of peace that you can find in this knowing of like, well, there's reason to it. And even if I don't know what that is, in time I will. And by then I can look back and go, fuck yeah. I not only incarnated for this moment in this transition, but I moved through it and I fucking knew what it was. It was the awakening of consciousness that I was here to embody to help this transition collectively. The age of Aquarius is upon us, and it's not coming because of some astrological alignment that's going to occur and all of a sudden spontaneously awakening. The age of Aquarius is the awakening of the Christ consciousness within the collective, within the individual, within each of us. That awareness is coming back. And that awareness, when it comes back, is going to create some need for integrating that awareness into changes on how we live on this earth, how do we interact with life and ourself and source and one another. And that is the profound change that's going to shift us into the age of Aquarius. And I'm here for it. A fucking man. On that note, as always, peace out. See you soon.